5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Dangerzone. I'm sitting here with a good friend of mine, Pete Perry, and we're having a good time.
We're having a great time.
Welcome to the podcast, dude.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me, and thank you for having me out here this weekend.
Yeah, so if you don't know, we're out in big country, ranch country, northwest Texas, near Wichita Falls, and we're here for the 6th annual Big Country Heli Hog Hunt, and it's going pretty good, I would say.
It's been a blast. I've done one flight so far of ham slamming. Of ham slamming, and it's like being a 10-year-old kid on Christmas morning. Like that feeling and like the adrenaline, you just hear your buddies giggling over the radio and just you're blowing off steam and just it's very therapeutic. It's good.
Yeah, I think you already hit a nice key word there. It's therapeutic, and I think it may be different for different type of people. Like the experience itself, I don't think has the same effect on everybody. So whereas I know this is on a bucket list item for a lot of people,
For sure.
and it's like a check in the box. Whereas I think for guys like you and me, it goes beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't know about you, but I don't necessarily have like a bucket list. I just go do stuff that, if I want to do something in my life, I just go
Make
do
it happen.
So
Yep.
I'm not seeking it out as just an achievement thing to do. It's like it seems to have a therapeutic process to it.
Well, for me, the most therapeutic part is just being out here with you and the rest of the boys where we could be out here throwing rocks at a bottle and laughing and reminiscing, and like that's therapy. Then, it's the icing on the cake of going in a super cool helicopter and like fighting and, not fighting, but like shooting, and like the whole thing is so therapeutic.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, being around the guys. So, Pete and I deployed together in 2012.
Yeah.
Well, 2011 into 2012.
Yep.
And we were in Helmand, Afghanistan together. And he was running the commandos, and I was with a village stability site.
In a super sketchy
yeah.
place. In a super sketchy place that almost killed us both a few times.
Super sketch.
Yeah.
And it's been fun because we have several guys out here that were on that deployment, and it is good to get around each other again, because a lot of us have gone separate ways in life.
Yeah.
Transition out of the military. We got some guys that are still in, and so it's nice. Another reason good reason for this event is having a reason to get us together.
Oh yeah,
and
it's huge.
Yeah,
I mean, some of these guys I haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah,
and it's that instant familiarity, instant comfort, trust, and just like you can kind of let your guard down and just like, cool, I don't have to act a certain way because I'm not in an office. Like I'm with guys that I've done all these things with, and it's just, and one thing I've really been working on a lot lately is like the mindfulness part of like be more present, the whole be where your feet are, and just to like stop and like look around, and like I've caught myself taking more photos now than I have of any other event with guys.
Yeah.
Cause now it's just, it's exciting, and I don't know the next time I'll see all you guys, and the next time we'll all be together. I mean, who knows what we'll look like or what's going on, and just, I want to make sure I remember it and just be present, man. And it's awesome.
So I've found a way with a lot of us dealing with these brain injuries and actually trying to maintain these memories. There's so much I've forgotten about that deployment, which is nice because when we get together, it seems like we're building like a collective hive mind because we're all there, and it's like we're reminding each other of things that happen. So it's like those fond memories we have from deployment, it's keeping them like alive in us, because I feel like trying to think of it on my own, it's almost like there's like a black hole there. It's like I forget so many details.
The hive mind, that's the best way to put it. Like last night I was hearing different things from Nick that I never knew happened.
Yeah.
But that affected everything, like during the course of so many missions and so many things where it's like, oh, well, that makes sense. And I never knew any of it. But then that fills in that big void in my brain of like, dude, I kind of feel like that happened, but I don't know. And then just through like shooting the shit, like, oh, that's how it went down. Cool.
Yeah.
Like, I remember that now a little bit, you know?
Podcasting, my older brother's here, and I podcasted with him. We've been able to analyze his story of getting wounded in Afghanistan from several different angles. We've interviewed the guys in the truck behind him, and so we've pieced together this historical piece of what went down. Hold on, we got some visitors to the podcast. So it is like a collective mind. You start getting a real clear picture of what happened, which is nice. It's nice to be able to look back and kind of have a better idea of what was happening during those crazy times.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Yeah, and it's also really cool because to hear it how another person perceived it is also really cool and really beneficial. And I think like maybe in the instance of your brother, you know, for me, one of the more beneficial things I ever got from like talk therapy, you know, I would always get really frustrated. I'm driving to work. I'm having the best day ever. And I would start thinking about stuff. And then I'd get real upset and real mad that I couldn't control thinking about it. So I'm telling this to the psych one day and he's like, dude, just, you need to process the memory. He's like, don't try and fight it. Don't bury it. He's like, go through everything start to finish. Remember what it smelled like. Remember what you felt like. Remember what it looked like. So for some of those voids, like what, you know, what's on, I got blown up really pretty good the second night there. There's like a whole 36 hours that's black, but just talking to dudes, it's like, oh, that's what happened. Cool. And then that helps me get through the next set of memories and just like keep moving on, you know?
Dude. So I know you're saying like you've been finding yourself taking more pictures and stuff out here. One way I've been building memories is using what we know about the olfactory nerve and how it's tied to people's negative memories, like triggering memories and stuff, like sight or smells of things. Your olfactory nerve is the most powerful memory creator, and that's, you know, your smell. So that's why people can, you know, certain smells can bring back, you know, memories and stuff. And I've always seen it from sort of a bad standpoint, like, you know, reminding of bad memories. So I decided a while back to flip that, and when I'm having good times, like being out here and stuff, going out in nature, I'll pick up dirt and smell it, smell the earth, smell like some of the foliage that's like local to that area and stuff. I'll break it up, rub it up in my hand, get it start getting it fragrant, and then I'll take a smell of it. And what I'm doing is I'm solidifying the memory of that positive event and tying it to a, you know, using my olfactory nerve as a powerful positive memory builder. So now when I get a whiff of something that I've done that with, it transplants me back instead of to like some negative experience. Next thing you know, I'm out in nature, you know, and
I'm going to try that. That sounds really cool. And then have you found that it kind of offsets the balance of the more negative stuff?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just like you're setting yourself up to where it has that same powerful effect of like I've never really had a negative smell drive type deal. Like there's nothing that I can think of that I sort of react to in that way. I just know it's been a problem for people, and I just kind of I had a theory. I'm like, well, why not just try and flip this and see what effect it has. And it was interesting how profound and how soon I just started noticing, like if I pass like, you know, pine tree smells and stuff, it will transplant me like back to that, you know, out in the national forest, or, you know, it's really cool. It basically sort of confirmed my, you know, theory. Yeah.
Well, and what I like about it too is, for me, the best medicine is being outside.
Yeah.
It's not being in front of a laptop, not being on my phone. It's outside, that fresh air, the blue light. I get the most out of that. Like I would have buddies, we'd go run around like Mount Baldy or like the San Gabriel Mountains and say we wouldn't like top out. They're like, dude, this sucks. We didn't do it. And you're like, I'm just happy. I'm not staring at a laptop. I'm so pumped to be outside. And then for weeks after that, I would feel lighter, more relaxed, and way more at peace. And just, I forget the John Muir quote, but it's like, that's your best medicine. Like get out. Like, and I wish more people would see that, like, instead of getting dopamine from likes and followers, like go outside, go for a walk. You don't have to go far. You don't have to do anything crazy. Just go outside, be around. That's it.
Yeah, dude, we've been having some good weather in Texas.
It's been nice, man.
Which is a change.
Yeah, I think it's gonna change too.
I've been in hammock mode quite a bit. Just again, just getting out of the house, off the screens.
Yeah,
and taking in some nice weather and just like hanging out underneath the trees. Looking up in the trees, just chilling.
Yeah.
Feels good.
Yeah. And it goes back to that, like the being present of just like, I'm here and all I'm going to focus on is just calming down.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is that you're going out there for. But I mean, we took the twins camping, a week and a half ago. Same thing, put up a hammock and they loved it. They just wanted to sleep in it and be in it and play around and just, that's been another really big driver too, is just sharing the benefit of the outdoor for those guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome because now I get, and that makes me super happy. Like I'm not forcing it on them. They want to go hike. They want to go kayak. They want to do stuff. And it's like, this is really cool, man. Like I'm raising like good little kids who just want to be outside and not stare at a tablet.
Yeah.
And dude, I'm by no means like perfect dad. Like I don't know what I'm doing half the time, but I feel like if I find like comfort or almost like salvation, like on the outdoors, like, hey guys, this is an option when you're older. Like, just know that it's here and like, this is good for you.
Yeah. I just watched a video on a guy who did an experiment where he lived in virtual reality for a week.
Oh, that makes me anxious thinking about it, dude.
And so he had like multiple VR goggles and stuff. And he's doing this as like a social experiment, right? He's like, what, these are the things we need to start considering as sort of technology and humanity's kind of moving in that direction.
Well, it's so much more invasive.
Yeah. And it's an interesting watch if you Google it on YouTube. It's interesting to see how it affected him. And he made it the week, but at the end of it, he's just like, he goes outside and he's just like, it feels so good to be outside. Like, yes, the VR stuff can take you all these places. He was doing like hangouts, and all the virtual hangouts and stuff. So he's getting like interaction with people and stuff. Took like his eyes were burning in like the first couple of days, but then I got used to it.
Gosh.
And but it's wild to think that like, that is kind of a consideration of where things are moving, but it's also such a clear example of there's the current state of our fleshy bodies that we're living in. We still need nature.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, people ask me like, dude, so you've been through all this stuff, whatever, like, what's your best thing? Like, what do you do for like therapy or how do you take care of yourself? And it's to go outside. That's it. And it's as simple as that. And it's worked for me. And I know that everyone's different, but there's just something about it. And you're not hearing cars and trucks and airplanes, and you're hearing birds and you're hearing the wind through the trees and you're hearing the river and you're hearing like kind of what you were saying earlier about the different sensory like input, like replacing all that other auditory garbage with just what you should as a human, like at that primal level, like be comfortable taking in.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing, like it calms me down. You know what I mean? It's like, this is what we should be hearing, not, my iPhone coupled with a million traffic and airplanes and all this other shit. And just, it's going to be really interesting to see where this stuff goes. Cause I almost feel like our generation, like we grew up without cell phones. Like I think at most you had like a Game Boy, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe like the next thing and the next thing, where now, like I've seen my niece who was like 2 years old, like they've made this technology so intuitive that the 2-year-old can get there, input mommy's password, swipe through it, find her stuff, download her stuff, and then sit there and just veg.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, then you take it away, and then now you've removed that, like that dopamine, all the good feelings that they were getting from that, and it's just like crazy time. And again, like we don't have it figured out by any stretch with the twins, but like we really try and limit that screen time. And if it's screen time, like try and make it educational most of the time. Like, hey, watch this thing, and then I want you to tell me about what you watched. Cool. And then let's go out and look into it, you know? So like my son the other day we were talking about Lady Bird Lake in Austin and how it meets up to the Colorado River. And I was talking to some dude, and he's like, oh, you got to be careful. There's a bunch of snakes in the area. So I was like, well, hey, let's all get educated because you're going to be in the kayak with me, and you need to know what you're looking for. Like, what's the difference between this and this? So let's watch this, and then let's discuss it, and let's look at pictures, and, like, let's learn about it. I think that's healthy. You know, like, we would have, like, an encyclopedia, you know, in the old days and find it and go through it, whatever. And now, you know, there's so much information that I almost think that's the other part. That there's too much information and you can't process it.
Yeah.
So
I think it's the access to information, I think, is one of the healthier side of things. It's taking us in an interesting direction. And now you really run into, I think with that though, now there's such a big burden on like what is sort of truth and fact, and like because there's so many different sources, there's so many different angles to almost everything. So it's you I think the negative sides of that are like the confirmation bias and like how do we know what we know, and so those are I think some of the struggles with that. But I think generally the access to information has been sort of a positive thing as far as like maybe curving some of the evil shit we do as humans because we're still savages.
Yeah, they're still an animal. So I think it is really interesting, and I think to kind of go back to that, the earlier thought is just I'm wondering if our generation is going to help kind of curve it back a little bit so it's a little bit more moderated.
Yeah.
Or is it just going to be full press, and next thing you know, your iPhone's in your contact, and you can do all of your stuff, and there's just zombies. You know, you're on your little hoverboard and moving around, and just, you know, the automation stuff, and just like we've made it so easy, and for people to just be so complacent. And my buddy Dave and I would always joke, like, man, like we'll get out, cool. We went and hiked 30 miles in 17 hours, and it sucked. Mm-hmm. But I feel amazing for weeks after it. And we always would kind of theorize that somewhere deep inside, like that primal human struggle, like it's healthy to suffer in that kind of a manner. I think like that physical exhaustion kind of thing, you know, kind of like the extended like marathon runner's high kind of thing of like, dude, why do you go out and run fucking 30 miles? Like that's miserable. Well, it makes me feel great. But I think somewhere in there, like that primal need to survive and like a little bit of the suffering, like, I don't know, it makes me feel alive. It makes me feel grateful for stuff. So I hope that our generation kind of curbs just like the need for it's so invasive now. Yeah. You know,
I think it's one of the largest challenges of our human civilization right now is how we're going to deal with this technological disruption that's happening. It's interesting to look back at ancient civilizations when we like start seeing that maybe some of them were wiped out and it's like what did they came advanced to a certain point and like
went away.
And so it's definitely a challenge, but you're so right about we are hardwired as humans to like almost need to engage those survival neural pathways or adversity pathways like where our bodies get, our bodies, our minds, everything get better by going through those. And, we've gotten pretty far away, but I do think there are a lot of people that the social media part, I think is we are seeing a curve sort of like, a sway back in the other direction. I think, you have record amounts of people going to national parks, getting on trails, which we're seeing like a lot more deaths out there because people don't know what they're doing. And but then you also have people trampling poppies for their Instagram.
So it's like kind of the double-edged sword of like you want everybody to go out there and to be super inclusive, and where I think for a while people might have been shy or nervous, like just get out, start with a slow walk, just see what you feel like and see what you get into. And then I mean, I've seen it, San Antonio Falls, we took the kids up there. It's like a 1.5 mile round trip. Super easy on hardball. And we watched a mother and her teenage son climb up the side of this waterfall, grab onto a tubular nylon anchor that we would use to like rappel down that same thing. Probably, I don't know, 30 to 45 feet high. The mom grabs the tubular nylon anchor and leans all the way back, arm extended, to take a selfie with the waterfall like below and behind her. And you're like, what kind of an example are you setting to your kid? Like the safety and like the risk mitigation and the whole thing. Like you're in a moving body of water with a massive fall, and should this thing go down or your hand slip off this wet anchor, like you're done. And for what, 120 likes? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
My,
so that's
my brother was in Yosemite, and they came up to this viewpoint, and somebody had just fallen off taking a selfie and died.
no kidding. Like while he was there,
Yeah.
holy cow.
I think it was a teenager
Man.
getting that selfie.
And see, then the adverse thing is then they'll put up a big, 10-foot tall chain link fence.
Yeah.
Hey, don't get this close anymore. And it's like, well, that's what made it like majestic, was not having this piece of this human barrier in the way. Like it's nature. I get to see it for what it is. And then now, eventually that's what it's going to turn into.
Yeah.
Because people are trying to do it for the gram or just, even if it's just for the memory, but just, and I almost wonder too, if there's just something to it to where you kind of get lost. You know what I mean? Like you're looking through that little viewfinder and like
Yeah.
you kind of lose that situational awareness and you're just absorbed of like, gotta get the perfect angle, the perfect light.
Yeah.
Whoop, gone. And for what? So I don't know. And I don't know what the right answer is and what it's going to be. And I think, I don't know. But I wish, I wish more people looked towards like a natural homeopathic type therapy instead of, I have a bunch of headaches and feel like shit and I have this, and this. Well,
Yeah.
cool. Take these 25 pills and just immobilize yourself indoors. And I
Yeah.
get it. Certain people are going to need that and certain people, might benefit for a time, but I don't know. I really think that's our most powerful. If it's coming from the earth, it's probably going to help you
Yeah.
for the most part,
I think you're right. And I think I like to take a look back at the big picture a lot and like, think where we are as a human civilization, but really what it comes down to is like, what are you doing in your life? And I think you're already doing it. You're teaching your kids, hey, this is where healing's at. And so, obviously they're going to do with it what they're going to do with it. But hopefully that passes on,
Yeah.
and helps them with their life,
And I think it'd be cool too to see some of those programs start to kind of get, back into schools, like the shop classes and like home ec and like, some sort of wilderness stuff, or just something to where it's like, we're not teaching it to the standardized test. Like here's some life stuff that's going to help you and benefit you,
There's a old recon Marine that has a YouTube page called Survivology 101, and he spends a lot of time doing bushcraft videos and stuff like that. And he just went and taught a class, basic class, fire starter class at a high school. And I thought that was really cool.
That's
and
super cool.
The kids were eating it up like
Yeah.
a sponge, I think people are thirsty for stuff like that. Something real, tangible stuff you can get your hands on, like you said, the shop class.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I found that beneficial. Have you found like working with your hands, like doing things with your hands?
100%. Yeah. I'm not good at any of it, but there's something gratifying about taking a bunch of wood and like building a table out of it or building shelves or something. But it's like, you get that really deep satisfaction of like, I built that. That came from my mind. I sketched it out. I cut it. I carved it. I did that. Like, it's cool. It doesn't look great,
Yeah.
but fuck it, I made it.
And again, that's part of the problem with the Instagram is if there's a million examples of what, quote unquote, fine art and stuff is out there. Everybody's like, there's some people out there that are really crushing it.
Yeah.
And they are very gifted. And so if you get caught up comparing yourself to them, you can get discouraged in doing artistic endeavors. But I've found that to be really healing.
Dude, I saw a headline the other day and it made me just throw up a little bit in the back of my mouth. And they were talking about Coachella, like the big giant music festival. And they were calling it, or they had equated it to the Influencer Olympics. And it's like, it's the keeping up with the Joneses of like the 1950s type thing of like, fuck it, charge it. Bob next door has it. Well, I need it. I need the next best one. Well, now it's the same thing, and it's like glorified. Like you're gonna do this. This is what's trendy. This is what's cool. Like back to what you mentioned a second ago with like the poppies. Like, oh, this is a cool backdrop on this filter on Instagram. I have to have it.
Yeah.
You're like, well, wouldn't you just want to go see that anyway? Because it's beautiful. Like, why not go check it out?
How beautiful were the poppies in Helmand?
Some of the like deepest pinks, whites, reds, and then just the contrast of like the green below it, and then to look out in the distance and see just big giant mountains and just dirt, and just to see like, man, just in this little area, it's absolutely beautiful. Like there's been times like you're running around in a firefight and you kind of stop for a second, you're like, oh, there's a babbling brook and there's this beautiful landscape and all this stuff, and then you're like snap back to it, but like really like hyper vivid colors, you know?
Oh yeah, and in Helmand, it's like the Helmand River Valley is the largest. Isn't it the largest poppy production?
Like 60-70% of like the world's like opium production, I think, like in the world.
You can run upstairs if you need to.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, can we edit that?
Yeah.
Sorry.
We don't even have to edit. I mean, when you got to go, you got to go. By the way, when we're waiting, as we're waiting for him to get back, we're podcasting in the Truscott Bank. This is the original bank here. They've renovated it. The Circle Bar Ranch is about it, and they have the original safe in here. So I'm just telling them that we're podcasting pretty cool location, like even within the ranch.
Yeah.
This is the Truscott Bank.
Yeah.
The original bank that they've restored. Sort of, it's obviously not a functioning bank now, but it's still got the old vault and everything. It's just kind of cool to see the history out here.
Well, and even back to like that, like the tactile part you were talking about earlier, like the smell and like the look of the old wood, and like to hear things creak and to see like that's original brick. Like that's really cool. Like,
yeah. And to get a, presentation, maybe a little long-winded, but like it was really cool information about the history of this place. And I don't know if he touched on it, but his, I think, great-grandfather, the first ones that came out here and kind of settled on the ranch, the house they built here is made out of these huge beams. And if you look around the trees out here, there's not like huge trees to cut some beams, because you couldn't go to Lowe's back then. And so they actually brought those in by wagon, so they're like, not only they're wagoning like their family and stuff, but they're bringing the material to like make their
new
home,
life.
Yeah. And I just thought that was really cool, because that house is like still standing over here, and you can like, but yeah, just hard people,
I can't even imagine that. Like my wife Erin, like we would joke, like driving across the country in the fifth wheel, we're going through like Wyoming, and you're like, not too long ago, like really not that long ago, people were like, just like you're saying, moving their entire life to start something fresh and start something new. And it's like, here we are in this fifth wheel. Like imagine how like stark and frightening and like exciting and cool that whole experience would have been. And just and that wasn't that long ago.
And especially in this area, some people out, the further, if you get west of like Dallas and Austin and stuff, the Comanches were jacking people up.
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
You weren't just you weren't trying to like just survive in the elements. You had like a pretty savage tribe running around from here all the way up into like almost Canada and stuff, just fucking people up.
Hunting you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Literally being like some of the best like primitive hunters coming after you. I mean, I couldn't even imagine that. Like, remember the old like Clint Eastwood movies where they're like backed into a canyon and just on top of the ridgeline, just 50, 75, 100 like Indian warriors come out, and you're like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Like, could you like, no one's coming to get you. You can't get on a phone. You can't do anything. Like, this is it, man. Circle the wagons and hope it works out.
Have you read any books about the real guy that Jeremiah Johnson was based off of?
No.
So his name was like his liver eating Johnson. And there's a good book on him that was a collection of like diary information and stories from other mountain men in that time that were told, like basically talking about him. And it's he was a hard dude. He got captured by I think the Flathead Indians, and he basically like won him over, and they're like, the chief's like, okay, hey, you can have one of my daughters to marry. He's like, cool. So she's now his helper for when he's getting all these furs and everything.
Yeah.
She's processing them and everything. So he goes out to trap and go get furs, and he would operate, I think, out of like St. Louis, where he kept his money in a tree hole. That was like his bank. Like totally different ties, dude. Like,
dude.
He just knows where the tree hole is.
This is my tree. No one. I hope it doesn't burn down, and no one finds this.
And so it was the crow came and killed his wife and stole his furs while he's gone. And so he took a blood oath after they killed his wife and said, every crow that I come across, like, I'm going to kill him and I'm going to eat his liver. And that's what he did. And apparently his signature move was a double kick to the abdomen. Like, people didn't expect that. He's a really tall dude, too. Redhead.
Shit.
But, yeah.
I couldn't imagine. I mean, it's funny now to think, like, 15 years ago, you were going to go somewhere, you'd get on Google Maps, and you'd, like, print it out, and then, like, if you missed a turn, you're like, shit, I have to go, like, 4 steps back now, shit. And then now I'll get frustrated, like, oh, Google hasn't updated, like, what the hell, man? And they're out there like, well, I think this is the right way. Let's hope this works out. If we go right, then we're in, bad guy Indian territory. We go left, and we've got the Rockies, and either way, we're going to die. So, shit.
Dude. Like, so we've both living in fifth wheels, which is kind of unique.
Yeah.
Like doing the whole, I don't know, gypsy, vagabond. Like,
it's the minimalist.
I don't know what.
Yeah.
A lot of it, it is funny because it just became real popular on YouTube. It was like trending #van life, like
back to the social media. Yeah.
It's funny to see people do the like, mommy and daddy bought them like a pimped out van and they do it for like a week or whatever and give up.
Yeah.
But, and people obviously do it for different reasons. So I did it when I was transitioning out of the military because I didn't know, as I was getting medically retired, I didn't know when I was going to leave. So I wanted to be flexible in my living situation. Didn't want to be tied up with lease and stuff. And I wanted to just shrink down all the stuff.
Did you find it comforting, like getting rid of stuff, and like how much stuff did you get rid of?
I'm very much a functional guy. If I have something, it needs to be serving a purpose. And so I felt really at home doing that. I liked the smaller space and immediately noticed one of the first things I noticed was spending more time outside.
Yeah. Because
you have such a small space to live in, it really becomes your sleep, eat place.
Yeah.
And then you're outside.
Your living room's outside. Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't want to be in a, like during the day, you don't want to just stay in a small environment all day. So cooped up.
Yeah.
So it almost forces you to get outside. You have less things to worry about. I loved it. But so what was your experience like? What were your reasons for doing it?
Yeah. So let's see. We'd been talking about it and researching it for probably like 8-12 months before we like finally pulled the trigger and did it. And then 2018 started off pretty rough for our family. Like my wife's like grandfather passed away, and then in May, like her dad passed away. So for like the months leading up to that, he wasn't doing well. So we'd made the decision about February of 2018 of like, look, man, life's too short. Like the twins are only at this point like 3. They don't have to be in school. Like life's too short. We could get cancer and die a miserable, horrible, painful death. We could be walking down the street and get hit by a bus. Like, let's just focus on being together. So I quit my, perfectly stable job at a great company, found a new job that would help facilitate that lifestyle. And no shit, we went from like 2,500 square foot house down to a 34-foot fifth wheel with 2 4-year-olds, a dog, and my wife. And to just go through that process of just like, I don't need this, I don't want that. And then what it really taught our whole family is like, it's memories, it's time together, it's not stuff. You know what I mean? Like my daughter like still has like we did our like trial trip for the twins' 3rd birthday, so that would have been September of 17. We rented a trailer and we drove up to the Redwoods for 10 days for their 3rd birthday. And my daughter still has it. It's a little rock that somebody had painted. It's like all green, like really pretty flowers. And it says, I believe. Mm-hmm. Whatever. Like, I believe whatever. Who knows what that person meant or what they were trying to do. But And that's like one of her prized possessions. She has this little pink treasure chest that I painted for her, and like that's in there. Like that made the cut, that little rock. And she's like, "This is when we went to the redwoods. This is when I turned 3. It's cool." And you're like, "Man, like, how do we harness that and like replicate it?" Like, well, screw it. Let's try it full time and see what it looks like. And we did it, and it was awesome. It was cut short by that new job. Unfortunately, we still have it, and we are still considering like just abandoning ship and just getting back out there, before the kids have to be in school. Or do we keep doing it? Do we homeschool them? But you hit the nail on the head, man. I mean, instead of us sitting around watching TV, we were out watching caveman TV. We're sitting around the fire, and then the kids would tell their like nighttime
Caveman
stories.
TV. I like that.
Yeah, it's caveman TV, and the kids would sit around and they would tell ghost stories and tell like funny stories, and like you would see like their imagination grow and their curiosity and like their comfort level, of being like, hey, we're 3 and we're kind of afraid of the dark, to being like, dude, we can walk through the woods in the middle of the dark and we're comfortable and we're all right because we're at home here, and even now, like my kids would be like, hey dad, let's go for a hike. Let's go can we sleep in the tent tonight? Sure. Let's go. Done. Let's figure it out.
Dude, that's awesome. Campfires are another one of those things I have a theory about that is similar to the olfactory nerve deal. And that is what you said, caveman TV, is when you go into how we are hardwired, like we're still humans.
Yeah.
And we're still very savage. I've been spending a lot of time around campfires lately and thinking about this. And it is a fire, when you're sitting around it and looking into it, is almost like a portal into another dimension, or a projector of like ideas. Like you could sit there and like see stuff in it, like you could if you're like looking at the clouds, like seeing things in the clouds. And there's something very therapeutic about it. And I started thinking about that, and I was like, what were the people we descended from, like what were they doing around the campfire? If you think about what they had to do during the day to survive, going hunting, all that stuff, like the fire was their therapy session.
Oh yeah.
When they're getting fucked up by Mother Nature during the day, or whatever, people dying, like, hey, so and so got fucked up by that, that lion.
Yeah, Bob was eaten by a lion today.
Yeah, and
his name probably wasn't Bob.
If you think about it, like the adrenaline and all that stuff that they're going through, by the end of the day, by the time you get to a point where you can make a fire and sit by it, that's their relaxation period.
Yep.
That was when they reset. That was when they could think about the day and process it, and think about the sacrifices of, hey, so and so didn't make it today, or and I think it's one of the original therapists for humans was a fire.
Well, I completely agree, and I think it's innately comforting. It's warm, and then it provides warm food or fresh water, or all the things that have come from that. And then for me, I think about some of my most like cherished moments, whether it was on a deployment, whether it was on like an adventure with my family. It's sitting around a campfire.
Yeah, paddle parties.
Yeah, 100%. And it's just, that is a very primal thing. That's like the ode to the caveman hunting trip. And hey, Ugg didn't come back today, so let's raise one for Ugg. And
it's in our, as far as survival and evolution, it is hardwired in us that like that is the safe spot. It's like our original safe space is around a campfire.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's awesome, man. My kids will do the same thing. Like they'll look at something and be like, "Oh, I see in the blue, I see the flame. It's blue, and it looks like this, and it looks like that." And just like to hear them just going on, and then to teach them too of like, all right, this is how we chop wood. This is why you chop the wood. This is how you should make the fire. This is why. This is what it should look like. And then the safety part of it. But then just like so many memories, just sitting around a fire, just all snuggled up, just the 4 of us and the dog, just hanging out, not a care in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I found that like, when I'm alone, and if I start feeling isolated or anything, the quickest fix is like starting up a little campfire.
Yeah,
just go sit by it. Like I don't really need anybody else. Like I'm feeling that comfort and I think it's kind of a positive mind state of being able to even like think about difficult things while you're sitting around it, and it's not, you know, somehow it like eases the like burden of it or something.
Well, maybe that's kind of like, you know, to get out there a little bit, that's kind of like the connection. It's not so much like a crystal ball. It's more of like, you know, you're looking into that and you're seeing this stuff, but like somewhere in the back of your mind and your DNA, it's just ingrained that like, I'm safe, I'm comfortable, fire keeps away aggressive animals, it does all this stuff. And it's like,
and reset.
Yeah. And it's like, maybe that's like just that primal connection all the way back to when we started, you
That's
know,
so
it's
wild.
Like, you think about it, you know what I mean? It's like, you're looking in not like a crystal ball, but kind of just like, hey man. And you just, how many times have you just like lost hours and you're just like watching it and it's getting bigger and then it's getting smaller and just like, you feel like at peace. I wish I could bottle that up, man, and just have it. And you don't even need to bottle it up. You just go outside and make a freaking campfire.
Yeah.
But I think there's something to that, man. Like just getting back to your roots, you know, and I really think about it. I mean, hell, on Camp Antonik, like that fire pit, we'd come back from pretty gnarly missions. You guys would join us at times and like sit around the fire and people wouldn't say a thing.
Yeah.
But you felt closer and more connected without a single word being said. And I feel like guys were able to process stuff and just, I don't know, man. I think it does a lot for like connecting that human spirit. You know, like we should have a big ass bonfire tonight.
That's actually so I've been helping out, like, you know, plan the event and stuff, and that's why we set up a cowboy campsite here. Is because really the event is so much more than a helicopter hog hunt. It is the guys getting together and sort of creating that environment where you're away from the daily grind of work, family, all that stuff, and it gives you a chance to get around a fire out in the middle of nowhere and just talk about stuff. Just think of, you know, last night us meeting up with all the guys and all the conversations that have been had just in one day's time.
Yep.
And the healing that goes on that. So tonight I'm going to make sure we get the cowboy campfire going.
That'd be awesome.
And the best hunting trip I've been on, it was out here, and we decided to just set up a cowboy campsite. And so every day when we get done hunting, we're getting around a fire and cooking, you know, elk and elk. Dude, I've had probably the best breakfast I have was at that fire, where we cooked up elk steaks and eggs.
Was that here? Or where was that?
Yeah, that was out here.
No kidding. That's cool. This place is beautiful, man.
Yeah.
I mean, and just to see it from a helicopter and just to see it, I mean, at that level, and just to see, like, one of my favorite things in the world, and it's really calming to me, is like to look out in nature and not see a big cell phone in tower, or not see power lines, or not just, it's like, that's it. That's nature. You know what I mean? Granted, I'm seeing it from a very technologically advanced platform, but just, yeah, we should make a big ass fire tonight. I think it'll be some funny stories will come from it for sure.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, dude, you want to get back out there and start enjoying the weekend?
I think we should, dude. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
Thank
dude.
you for having me out here, and thanks for letting me.
Dude, it's been
sit down and
so
talk.
great, like, getting to see you guys again.
Yeah.
You know, there's something special about meeting up with the guys you've been to war with.
I think any time that you suffer closely with people and you have that, you know, the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. I mean, just like we said earlier, like I haven't seen some of these guys in years, and it's like we never left.
Yeah.
Like, how is that? Like, you know, I will cherish that, and like this time, like from now until the day I die. You know what I mean?
Forges bonds, dude.
Yeah.
In a fiery furnace.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, like now, you know, having been out for 4 years and like being in a new area, like not knowing people and being kind of isolated and like kind of intentionally isolating myself. Like I don't want to go out and try and find new friends and talk to people because we lack those shared experiences, which that's closed-minded. Like that's like the whole echo chamber, like thought bubble thing of like, I don't want to talk to this dude or go do this because, well, we don't have anything in common. So I'll stay in my lane where I'm comfortable. So it's like, on one hand, you're not really growing as a person, but then I don't know, man. There's something to be said about just like that, like the deepest, most intimate trust of another human being that like you have like cried with, bled with, fought with, like you've seen them at their best and their worst and vice versa. I mean, dude, I hope to do this as often as we can. You know what I mean? Like this is the most therapeutic thing, just being around guys, like even just driving up from like Austin to Fort Worth to go see like Kaz.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my wife Erin will be like, dude, go, because you're good for like weeks after like hanging out with one of the guys. Like just go, like go have fun, do your thing, blow off some steam, come back right, cool, go. So
it is difficult with the shared experiences deal, like trying to find people in a city. You know, you move to a new city and it's like the average person you come across, you're just not going to have that shared experience. And that's another reason that I promote stuff like this.
Yeah.
Is getting to events where you can find like-minded people. You're coming together to do the same thing. I've been able to build relationships with lasting friendships with civilians, you know, that we don't have the same war experience together,
mm-hmm.
but we've been out here camping out in the middle of nowhere and going hunting together. Like that's, I think that helps bridge that gap. And if you can find stuff like that to incorporate in the lifestyle, getting around like-minded people, it can help you find people outside of. But there is another level to going to war with somebody. It just
for sure.
It does take it to that next level. You know, obviously, I think you just basically can't replicate it.
Yeah.
But I would say the next best thing is getting around like-minded people.
Yeah, and that's something I'm definitely working on. And like now I found myself like trying to get more out of my comfort zone of like, you know, before like I would not wear a red t-shirt. I would wear like dark blue jeans, black shirt, like this very like stoic, always just like robotic thing. And it's like, why, man? You can wear whatever you want, do whatever you want, be like. So now I found myself like, okay, I can relax a little bit. You know what I mean? So that's been like a really like refreshing change for the better.
Sounds like you're working on your ego there.
Big time, man.
Yeah.
Big time.
I still deal with that.
Yeah.
The ego is a big personal challenge.
Yeah. Travis, he calls it's the falling from grace. You went from being like a super cool dude with all your buds to being like, you work in an office and you're alone and you have nothing in common with anybody. And it's like, how do you repurpose yourself? So for me, it's like, I know that I'm not probably going to ever find that level of satisfaction in a job ever again. So for me, it's being a dad and like being the best husband I can be. Like, that's it. Like, and I get giant amount of just personal satisfaction at the end of it. And I don't know, man, I feel like I feel a lot more relaxed now and at peace. Like I've like started like meditating, like working out a lot more. Like, dude, 6 months ago I was probably 215 of fucking fat cookie dough. I'm down to 185. Like,
yep.
And you know, I think it's the same thing. Getting out in nature, running around like a lunatic, suffering a little bit, some of the like the type 2 fun, you know, and just I'm grateful to be here, and I'm grateful to like. Yeah, I'm so excited, man, just for what's next.
Yeah.
You know, like what's next tonight, what's next fucking tomorrow, and like, bless you. And just, you know, where will we be, you know, the next time we all sit around a campfire, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so, yeah, man, thank you for having me out here, and thanks for having me on. And like, I really thank you, man.
Dude, this has been rad. It was a pleasure to go into some of those spots with you and Helmand and go to war with you.
Yeah, likewise, man.
It made what was a really shitty time during the war to like still be fun. You know, there's a lot of fun that was had.
Yeah.
And it was a cool thing to be a part of that.
Yeah.
With you.
Yeah, and I'm grateful to be here with a handful of the rest of the boys that we ran around with, and just to see everybody, and everybody seems to be doing well, and people are positive and encouraging, and just, I don't know, man. I'm just happy, man.
Awesome.
I'm really happy. That's it.
Yeah,
So.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy for you. Cool. Well, let's get back out there and kill some hogs and go hang around the campfire.
The rest of the boys, hell yeah. Thanks, dude.
All right. Thanks for joining me.